let's bring in Hall of Famer, one of the greatest ever, paving the way as always, the woman who would be king, the one and only Madusa. I throw all of them out there at once, you know.
You do. You
He's
do.
slick
Thank you.
like that.
I
A
thank
lot.
you guys for having me. And it was great to see the girls on. I've worked with them in the past, so it's great to see them. And guys, thank you for what you do. I think you guys put out a great show, by the way. I never really got to tell you that, and I want to tell you that. So it's very interesting with everything going on. There's always things going on in the world of wrestling. And I think the hot topic is who killed WCW. I'm sure we all have a lot of thoughts on that. Speculations, feelings, opinions, we all have one. And I don't think that there's a right or wrong. I think it's what the people that were there at that time and what they experienced. And then everyone can have their thoughts and their feelings and whatnot.
Very passionate fan base about this, by the way. I mean, it's so long ago, but yet, and we were talking earlier last week with Greg Gagne, and we talked about the AWA, right? And you saw how Bully read it right of that. He starts getting like body language because he was so close to the product about like it's triggering old memories. And then, you could see online, especially how, Ric Flair has chimed in, Vince Russo has chimed in, Bischoff has chimed in about this, certain topic, which is 20 plus years ago, which is cool because of how much people really enjoyed the product. So it's a interesting dynamic to see so many years later, but it also speaks for your body of work, which you were a big part of.
It affected people's lives.
Yeah.
Major. And the fans loved it because it was hot, it was new, it was productive in a way where they've never seen it before. It was territories that no one really touched upon. And so I think it was the pinnacle of wrestling at that time, right? For both entities. Both entities made money. Period, hands down. And at the end of the day, if you're a business owner, that's what you wanted to do. And that was the concept, right? However, that even though it's so many years ago, it affected so many lives. And when you have, if it's work, personal life, kids, family, colleagues, when something happens and there's trauma, you're going to carry that trauma with you for a long time. However, it's up to the person and how they choose to deal with it and how they bring it out. A lot of people, spew things. A lot of people don't know how to handle it. Now there's social media and there's dysentery of the mouth on there, in so many different directions that I don't like to air out my personal laundry on social media. I think it's a deadlock, you know what I'm saying? And it's nobody's effing business either. So I think that there was a lot of trauma because it was people's livelihood. And a lot of people saw this controlled by a group of monkeys, per se. And I'm going to call it like it is, like business. It was unfair on so many levels to so many people as far as work ethic, immoral, illegal, and just simply wrong. Now, to defend a lot of them, NWO was the shit. It made people money. It was fun according to them, and it outshined anything. And still, NWO is a top-selling product, right? As soon as that came out, I called it the New Woman's Organization, which never happened, but I digress. That's a whole nother effing frickin' segment. So, where do you want to start?
Well, you know what? Let me throw this out there because when I was watching the episode last night, it affected me in such a way because doing this show, and we've been lucky enough to be on the air for 15 years, but it was a fight. It was a battle. A lot of people didn't believe in what we were trying to accomplish and do because it was pro wrestling. You know, we had somebody in charge of the department that just hated and shit on the show every single turn because it wasn't the NFL, wasn't Major League Baseball. So, you know, and I kind of got those vibes back. It was like I'm almost shell shocked by everything that I had to go through just getting this show on the air and keeping this show on the air and trying to expand this show. And when they showed that meeting, that's like that CNBC meeting, it was like with all those heads and all those executives, when they just mentioned pro wrestling and the chuckles in the backgrounds and the laughs, I was like, these motherfuckers, because that's the same kind of shit that I had to deal with because people don't take pro wrestling serious. It's like they love the money that comes in from it. They love the advertising, but they don't want to admit that pro wrestling is as big as it is or give it any respect. They're almost angry at the fact that it's successful.
And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. You know, you've got to give credit to Eric to just throw the shit in the hat and just see what sticks. And it's exactly, I mean, you can call it what it is, you know, sucking on Hogan's teats or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, that whole shock value worked, right? I don't know for who at the end of the day. I think it was the people that had the 6 figures and 7 figures that had the legs to stand on and didn't give two, you know, fucks about it or, you know, the respect of other people. But again, in the same breath on the other side of my mouth, that was business. I didn't like it, but that was business. Right.
But I almost felt like watching that episode and, you know, the question is who killed WCW? I felt like there was no way that WCW would ever be able to live and survive. Like there were so many people within, you know, that were a part of it, then so many people that were part of Turner Broadcasting that didn't want it to succeed, that they were just waiting for the opportunity to axe it and kill it off. Like, I just feel like there was no way that WCW was ever going to win. No,
and here's it. If we want to go back, I've been through so many effing mergers. I get it. I can see them coming before they even happen. So when that merger was starting, that started before even people knew, before Eric knew, before even Ted Turner knew. But he knew with all the heads and working together when the merger with AOL and them, it already was on a start of a spiral. And Ted loved wrestling, if I'm not mistaken, you know, and I feel that once that started and that became into position, Ted knew what he had to do. And when it comes down to the end of the day, it was numbers. So when the merging happened, it just started collapsing. Now, we didn't feel it right away because it was an inner circle and we're not in it, right? We're not in that club, even though certain people. And then by surprise, at the time, it dwindled down to Eric. It was a shit show. Basically, I feel that if this company didn't have the corporate structure like WWE didn't, it would have been a success and could have kept going. Now, I don't know if there's that much of a corporate structure with AEW because I want to see AEW succeed. We need this. We don't need one snake pit per se, where it's just the monopoly of our, you know, our bread and butter, basically, or the kids' bread and butter of today. We need competition and we need places where people can go and work, period. Mergers suck. And when that happens, it's, you know, Eric got the control of let's say the checkbook. And there were certain people in the club that got taken care of, and a lot of people lost a lot. Absolutely.
So, hang on, just Dave, like, and I know Dusa knows this, like dealing with television or dealing with corporate people, like ECW, 95, Madison Square Garden Network, Knicks, Rangers, Yankees, both went to the championship, and the Yankees dynasty is starting. We're the highest rated show on their network, and we're airing at 2:00 in the morning with all these things. We were paying to be on there, and Paul goes and say, hey, how about you guys show us, give us some love. Oh no, you're paid programming. We're the highest show on your network. You're paid programming.
Mm.
And they gave money to other people, and then when they lost and they started the Yes Network, they still have us, and we're paying to be on as opposed to getting that. Again,
that's
a different
exactly
time.
what happens. It's exactly what happens.
But you couldn't change their mind. It's so fucking frustrating.
It's suits, and the good old boys club and the gentlemen. I mean this with respect, but it's the fucking old man, that old fucking man mentality that needs to go. And that's what was happening there at that time at was it CNN or whatever it was?
Yep.
And I mean, their thinking was that old thinking, just the old white man or whatever got control of this whole situation. And it was wrong. It happened when I worked for Monster Jam and Feld Entertainment bought over. Same crap. Didn't like it. The control and everything collapsed. When, oh my God, you hit so many. Tommy, I love you to death, man. Every time I think of I'm going to quick go here, that the swerve to the old plane ride bullshit and what happened to you, man. I'm like, you know what? I'll be back there, back in Tommy Dreamer. And here's the thing. I think that when they choose to want to get rid of something, there's no control because they want to shine. They'll take this down. If they don't like something, even though you're making money for them, you're keeping them afloat. And it was just like Monster Jam. Monster Jam, they had Barnum and Bailey Circus, they had dirt bike riders. All of that was sucking. Do you know what made millions and millions and millions? Damn monster trucks that crashed every weekend, that was selling out 70,000 people every weekend and paying for all of their bullshit. What happened? They had to close down Barnum and Bailey Circus. They had to close down the dirt. They had to close everything else, but that shined and they hated it. Same thing with wrestling. And that's exactly what happened here. Here we are, fast forward how many years? Now, all of a sudden, we have podcasts, we have movies, we have biographies, we have all of this. And 30 years later, they finally get it. Well, let me put that in parallel. It's kind of like being a woman in this business. They finally get it in this era that fucking women matter. They can draw a house and they can bring it to the front. That's what I lived my whole life, is like a corporate structure bullshit. Yes, I feel you.
I mean, even like when we had Guy Evans on, who helped with their production, he's talking about how they did the accounting. And they literally were skewing the books against the company that's in there.
So yes, illegal. Egos. And it's called laundering money. And if none of them think that they didn't do it, they're full of shit.
And it's true, because it gets a really quick bully. Like Guy Evans came on and said, like with Turner Home Video, and Turner Home Video is making millions of dollars off the VHS video cassettes. So WCW had to pay for the production of all those videos, but the money that was made on those videos didn't go to WCW. So like they're stealing from Peter to pay Paul. But again, where all the original content is coming from, none of the money is going to WCW. It's crazy.
Yes, but somehow, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Madusa.
I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
So I was fully prepared to ask you a point blank question.
Yes,
the name of the show is Who Killed WCW? You were there. You saw things with your own eyes. You heard things with your own ears. But in the course of watching the episode last night and listening to this discussion, I think it's safe to say that we can all agree it wasn't Eric Bischoff. It wasn't Vince Russo. It wasn't the boys. It was the higher-ups who hated pro wrestling to begin with. Maybe.
A percentage, because I do believe that when you have suits and old school men in a, sitting around a round table, circle jerking on what they believe in, you're going to get.
By the way, talking about circle jerking is something only you as a woman could possibly get away with on this show.
Whatever. It's a term of endearment. I don't know. It's a combination of things. Okay. So there was a freedom with these payouts, which were astronomical. Now, I know I'm going to talk on the other side of my mouth, but we've got to look at every angle and stop pointing fingers at just, it's a combination of everything. And so I think I think the contracts and some of them were absolutely insane. I think the nations clause was fucking brilliant. I mean, I would have loved to have that. Shit. I was brought in for $75,000. Don't even get me fucking started. So, and I think that when you have a lot of these old stuffy suits sitting back, having a show do so good, but yet you're going to see the money being dished out, it's going to tweak these guys because they're making as much as them, if not more, and they have control. So what is a jealous old man that's just can't get laid and just fucking pissed at the world? He takes down the, because they got power, they take it down. And because the hate is so much hate. But again, I think there's a lot of favoritism. I thought there was fucked up booking. I thought the monkeys were running the show. It was, I don't know. It was like watching paint
When
dry.
you say the monkeys were running the show, do you mean like the boys had too much influence on the creative?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I just want to be clear for our fans that are listening. Okay.
Absolutely. And please tell me if you guys think I'm wrong. I mean, there's too many goddamn chiefs.
Me and Tommy could not tell you were wrong because we weren't there. That's why your opinion holds a lot of water, because you saw with your own eyes, you heard with your own ears.
Yes.
I just say it's always it's mismanagement, or there's so many, like, well, to Bully's point, there isn't just one person, there's a lot.
Exactly.
When Dave LaGreca, I loved when we had Jerry Briscoe on about Black Saturday, when they're, sell to WWE, and Dave for years, it's Vince, he bought the time slot, blah, 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 blah. And then Jerry goes, well, we're losing money, we're doing this. It was offered to every NWA promotion and nobody wanted it. And like, if you saw Dave's face, he was like, huh? Like,
yeah,
that everybody passed on this thing called Georgia Championship Wrestling, and then Vince just took it. But like, all these other circumstances that you don't know, but like you said, now that there's been this documentary, now that there's been deep dive studies, the books are now open to people because the company no longer exists. You could see like how it happened. So, but sadly, like what you were talking about before, who loses? Not only the wrestlers, the fans. Because
absolutely.
During that time, it was so exciting.
It was, and I feel that, there's a lot of personal thing. I feel that talent, there was a lot of unhappy talent there. And some people call Goldberg neurotic. Some people call, Nash and Hall fucking egotistical. Some people call, this or that, mismanagement of Bischoff. And then Vince Russo is a crazy dude or something. I don't know. But when you put that combination together and there's no cooperation or leadership, this stunk of no leadership completely. And so when you get promised things and it doesn't happen, it's the result at the end of the day of the person in charge. And that's why Eric got a lot of fucking flack probably. And can you imagine on Eric's defense? I mean, I have at him several times, but at the end of the day, we are friends. But we're talking about that time. Can you imagine being Eric just saying, yeah, I'll take it, and jumping into something you have no fucking idea? And he did it for 83 weeks. He did it. Whatever it was, he did it, right?
But when you say no leadership and you just bring up the 83 weeks, Eric had to be some type of a competent leader that got in way over his head with all of the talent doing what they were doing, plus all of the BS he had to deal with from corporate.
Convoluted luck, right timing, everything was falling into place. As far as leadership, it was a mess. It was a mess. That was not good leadership, even though it was I know it sounds crazy, success. I'm talking about everybody else behind the scenes. It was toxic, guys. It was toxic.
So can you give us an example of a good leader in professional wrestling that you have come across, somebody that you respect as a good leader?
Well, whatever I say, there'll be opinions formed. And I'm not here to please everybody, because nor can we please everybody. I can only speak with my experience and how people treated me within the business. And that's how I speak, period. Otherwise, my thoughts and speakings are only freaking opinions of what I see, right? Like all of us, and how we observe things. But I go by actions and how I was treated. So a leader, WWE wouldn't be a success where it was or is if it wasn't for Vince McMahon. Let's just say that on a fucking table right now. In spite of all the bullshit, it wouldn't be where it's at, right? You can like it or dislike it. It's just, to me, yeah. Now, Paul Heyman gave me opportunity and helped pitch and fight for me, as well as JR trying to get me into WCW, and Dusty. So, and giving me all the, time on TV and able to work, where Bill Watts basically shit and didn't believe in me and called me a fucking bitch, and Paul Heyman a goddamn Jew. It was the sign of the times of a complete dick, actually. And so, I mean, to me, Bill Watts wasn't a good leader, but to me, I felt that there was Vern Gagne, Vince McMahon, Paul Heyman, even though he wasn't my leader, but he led me to help hone my craft and to success at that time. And other people's experiences might be different. I'm not here to try to sway you or change you or how you feel about people, but these are my experiences. I think that people that are try to be honest with their work is important. And we got to remember, you got to keep your emotions out of it, and you can't please everybody. You've got a job to do, and that's your job. And that is to make a whole segment or a whole company success, because everyone else flourishes.
Hey, Bub, I mean, if you do remember, we were around for the merger, and if you remember the time Tori and Stacy did not show up for their first live events, and then they were like, oh, well, we went to the beach. And WWE was like, wait, what? Like, well, oh, we didn't know we had to be there, because there was no ramifications for management. And then it's like, okay, well, you're fined. If you do that again, you're fired. And they were like, oh, we can't just decide what we want when we want to come to work, because they were going from what they knew in WCW. Or I believe it was Buff. Buff shows up at like 4:00. He misses an event. And then he shows up at 4:00 or something. And then they're like, okay, you're terminated. And he was like, wait, what?
Good. I don't mean like good on Buff, but good for that. To me,
but that was management saying,
yes,
we don't accept this here. But that's why they're out of business, and now we're the boss. There's ramifications for you not doing your job. You couldn't say, well, I don't like that finish, I'm not going to do it. That's why when I hear it, I just say it's mismanagement. That's all.
Let me ask you something, Tommy. Let's say fast forward today. Let's say you are having training and there's an open ring and you have all your talent there, and yet there's still young talent, and there's talent that we still learn shit today, right?
Yep.
So you have open talent or open gym, and you have a legend wanting to train all these people. But let's say one of today's stars decides not to go because they say that it's voluntary and I don't need to go. But yet, their work sucks and whatever. I mean, what happened to the mentality of that? And this is an ongoing
wrestling
thing
schools.
Even today.
That's what fucking happened. Wrestling schools.
Every
fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry who can buy a ring and rent a warehouse opened up a wrestling school when they shouldn't be training anybody, because they were nobodies to begin with. I'm done.
You digress. Okay. So even though somebody may have never stepped in the ring, do you feel like they may not have experience? Is it because of the physical feel that you feel, or what?
It's just teaching bad habits that they have and teaching bad habits to others. That's kind of like if you look at the current WWE Performance Center, where they're taking all these athletes with no wrestling experience because they can create what they want for their players, and from ground level, as opposed to if it's indie person who has all these mistakes that they got to correct to invest in them. So if you take these people at ground level, there's the basis.
Madusa, I've been doing this for 30 years
To answer your question, you can learn. To answer your question about if there's a vet there, I would say, so you feel you couldn't learn from this person, you can take one nugget of knowledge that you couldn't learn from this person, you did a disservice to yourself. That's
exactly.
all.
My response, I'm sorry, Bully. God, I'm so sorry.
No,
my response to that was, well, if you're hurt or injured or whatever your problem is, why don't you still go and sit outside the ring and maybe you might have questions or do whatever. I don't need to do that. It's voluntary. My head spun around, looked like I was a fucking exorcist. And I said, you know what? This is the problem. This is the problem right now where everyone feels like they don't need to. And it just kind of pissed me off. And it kind of relates back to the whole WCW, what killed. No one gave a shit either. They just showed up whenever.
So I never told you this, but
Yes,
let me just preface with, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had a modicum of success in this business. Everything has seemed to kind of work out okay for me. Remember when we were supposed to ride together a couple of months ago?
Yes, sir.
I was so disappointed that we didn't get to ride together. Why? Because I didn't get to pick your brain. And I've been doing. That's why I was so, because I didn't get to ride with you, somebody who's been doing this longer than me, and I don't have many people that I can continue to learn from. And I'm not trying to sound pompous, but there's not many people I can get one piece of information from that I didn't know before to make me better at what I do. That's why I wanted to drive with you. That goes to your example of the big star who doesn't attend the seminar because they think they know it all. And where does that start? At wrestling schools, because the nobodies who are running these schools and training younger students are not instilling the proper knowledge and respect in the younger wrestlers, that when they become big stars, they still have a thirst for the knowledge from the veterans.
I mean, I hear your passion. I do. And I agree with you. And I think, first of all, I'm going to back up a little bit to who brought up NXT or brought up the PC. Tommy, what the fuck is happening there right now? I don't know, but I love that product. I've watched it. I've been on it. They've asked me to go, and I just think it's amazing. I agree with you, trying to get talent that, is from the ground up so they can mold them into what they want. But I do see some type of disconnect. I don't know what that is a little bit. There's two things in this business, and this is my ride with you, Bully, and what I would have said if it would have came up. You cannot buy charisma. You can't fucking teach it. You can't rent it. Either you got a little bit of charisma or you don't. And that's what your success is in this business. It's the power of your microphone, the power of your speaking ability and your charisma. Now, can you enhance on things that you have? Yes. And hope they fucking roll into something and mold into something and you become that success. Yes, it happens. But charisma is the key to our business.
Well, on that note, one of the things that struck me last night in episode 2 was Goldberg. And here's Goldberg. He's the champ. He's on top. He's the guy. And they showed that clip of a match that he had, right, with Scott Hall. And he makes the mistake in the ring. And Scott Hall looks at him and says, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I don't know what the fuck I'm doing." He literally says, "I have no clue what I'm doing." And this is the top guy, the champion. He's the number one person in the company. And it struck me like, holy shit, the guy that is at the top of the mountain has no fucking idea what he's doing.
Okay, stop, guys. Hear me out on my perspective.
Okay.
Is it his fault?
No.
Who pushed him like a motherfucker? No, it's not. I don't, and for a man to be humbled and to fucking bring it out and say, "I don't know." He didn't know. You know what? I applaud him. Y'all can call me batshit crazy.
No, we are 1,000% on board with you.
I mean, Jesus. And I say that, and then I hear all these comments about people and saying that he's fucking this and that. And I'm like, you know what? He's a bigger man than you to admit he's wrong, because I don't know too many men that can fucking admit that they're wrong or be humbled or accept something. He went on national TV and said that. You know what I mean? So I commend him. He was pushed to the gill. That's what happens to a lot of these talents when they're not even ready. Look what happened to Ronda Rousey, for Christ's sake. You know, they took her, they did the whole Brock thing with her, and I feel that she did the best she could in what she had. Maybe some things got in the way of her, if it was her own, attitude. I don't know. I can't say whatever people else think. But the same thing with Goldberg.
Friend of the show as well, David Arquette. If you're looking at somebody and you say, hey, you're a big fan and we want to put the world title on you. And everyone blamed this poor guy.
I know.
But anybody would have said that. Dave, we're going to put the NXT title on you tomorrow. Are you going to do it?
Of course, 100%.
So, yes. I mean, yes, you can't blame these people. And yes, for Bill Goldberg to say that, and even Bill to admit, I was trained that way to listen to the wrong people. I took the wrong advice. But that is the
attitude of Nash and fucking Hall and that whole clique thing, is that they didn't give a fuck. And they basically, I thought it was great that Hall continued and carried and took a hell of a bump for him afterwards, because it's a product of both of you. If you were to turn on that guy right now when he screamed, I don't know, then you both would have looked like shit. The whole product would have looked like shit. And then you just shit on everybody. But again, they had a very suave type of personality, and they carried it, and they just didn't give a shit themselves. But that was their, that was their personalities then. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, she's done.
One of the beauties of our industry is we can protect each other, but the protection can only be for a certain amount of times. It was obvious that Bill got protected within 3-minute matches. It was obvious that Bill got protected in 5-minute matches. Now we start to get into 7 minutes, 9 minutes, the Scott Hall. You can't protect somebody for that long. Eventually, you're going to get exposed. And that's what happened to Bill Goldberg against Scott Hall. He got exposed. And I agree with you. Man enough to go, I don't know. I wasn't trained past 5 minutes. You people threw me in this situation.
So good. I wasn't trained past 5 minutes. That was good. I'm going to go back to leadership. And this is a full circle right here, guys, is that it boils down to a team. We are not just us. We are a team of the whole, let's say, WCW. I'm doing my part as a wrestler. I'm training. I'm bringing it. I can wrestle. I'm doing my part. But damn it, I'm not. If I'm not getting over and I know I'm filling my part, then why is it then you're just the shits, you're no good, or you too loud, you're too boisterous, or shut the fuck up, you're neurotic. You know what it is? It's creative, it's leadership. I'm only as good as my leader. I'm only as good as creative writing. I'm only as good as the people that put up the damn ring, because if that bitch breaks, then my whole match sucks. I'm only as good as the person I'm trusting in the ring to carry my body. I'm only as good as the audio guy to make sure my fucking mic works. And I'm only as good as the whole team to work as a team. Damn it.
Dave, you got something, or can I ask one last question?
Yeah, ask one question, because I do want to promote some of the things that Madusa is doing.
Go to Madusa.com. I'm good.
You're the best. You were there a long, long time. This is a negative connotation for the topic, right? That we're talking the death of WCW. Can you give me your happiest moment in WCW? Because you gave so many to fans.
I love what I did. I loved being a wrestler. And I was trying to change the trajectory of women in the path and trying to make it respectful, even though I fell in that whole bullshit and started changing because I was, scared of my job. And then I had a come to Jesus talk and said, what the hell are you doing? And that's when I realized this business is not a business. It's corrupt. And you know what? Peace out. I'm out. I just didn't like the direction it was going. And so as far as the good things, you know, I was jaded there for a long time, you know, for a year or so afterwards, because I was just pissed off. But you can't carry that shit with you, and you can't, you know, I can tell people you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, it's upon the individual. I can love somebody, doesn't mean I like you. I can do business with you. I don't like you. Yeah, okay, but I sure can do business with you. But I will be cordial and, you know, nice to people. But I can only speak about my experiences. So my experience with WCW and my whole thing is that I was just ecstatic to be doing what I did and what I loved. I got to see the change through pinnacles of my career, which was unheard of, because I hit many pinnacles. And I'm going to say it, and as a woman in this business, that was undoable, and I did it. So I think the best highlight of my career is that revenge is the best. It's not about revenge. I think the best thing is that I'm still here and I survived. Survival is the best revenge in this business. And if you can survive that and be a damn good person and know your role, then at the end of the day, I have my integrity and I never sold it, and I'm proud of it, and I can go to sleep at night.
Nice.
Amen, sister.